welcome to FaceHammer Christmas special. So Merry Christmas, everyone.
Welcome. I'm not staying in the dark, but my lights aren't very bright, so I needed to try and do them justice because now they don't look like they're on. So there's some cute bumblebees up there that are lit up. You just can't tell.
Spoiler: we're not actually recording this on Christmas, so our fake Christmas cheer. Tell us how we get on.
Sure. But Les is going to be drunk. Les is
drinking.
Les is planning on being drunk until the 26th. So he started now.
Got myself a Long Island iced tea. So I just thought
some Winter Jack.
For people who tuned in for AOS content, we're sorry. We're
going back. We're going back to 4 years ago when we didn't do any AOS content.
We're going old fashioned with an old fashioned.
Old fashioned. Yeah. So we just thought we'd talk about stuff. Warhammer, other things, hobby things, hang out, and just chat shit, really.
By the end of this episode, Russ is going to be collecting a Slaanesh Slaves to Darkness army.
Oh, don't.
Fact.
Fact.
That's the agenda of this. He doesn't know, but the reason we're recording this episode... The reason we're recording this episode... Get those balls out your face, you're not Slaanesh yet.
Not even balls.
The reason we are recording this episode is so that we can convince Russ that he needs that army specifically. So if you think Russ should start that army, which you do a fantastic job of, then just leave a comment below and tell him, it helps.
Don't compliment me halfway through. Like I'm going to get ego.
Carl Breakspear will simp up to his house and give him a box.
Mate, that's a birthday
present.
I'm gonna simp an Element Games box to your house right now.
Hey, I'll take it. You're only get it back in 3 months. No, in all seriousness. So I thought we'd talk a little bit. I mean, obviously we've done the Advent shows, so that was a bit of a learning experience doing a video a day. But thankfully we got there.
I've still got videos to edit.
Yeah, at this time, we've still got something to do.
At this point,
work is not over, but we're going to pretend
it's
all done. So if in the next few days there were a couple of days missed, it's Les's fault. Just saying.
Yeah, we go for me. Well,
Applejack's fault.
Yeah. Well, it's a team. It's a team failure. Team failure. Mm-hmm. That's not our name. That's not our new tagline. # team failure.
So where are we going to start this unstructured whatever then? Because there's not particularly new releases to talk about or anything like that. We're just going to talk about what you're excited for, what you've enjoyed in the year, do people have a particular thing they want to jump in on?
No, I mean I think we can cover all those things, but I think we had some suggestions on our Discord for the Advent shows, and we got to most of them. Some of the stuff we didn't get to,
are we going to ad hoc these? Are we going to we're going to just go off piste and just do them on the fly?
Yep.
Amazing. Cool.
So
with alcohol involved, yeah.
That's what could go wrong. So hopefully you're watching this on Christmas Day and you're having fun, or if you're unable
Drinking
to see your family, then hopefully this is enough of a distraction to be like the car crash of when you are with your family and drinking stuff and you can decide that actually you don't miss it that much and actually you can enjoy being on your own. It's just a joke, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about my personal experience, so it's
fine. Take a second, because some people aren't going to be with their families due to all of this COVID madness and stuff.
I'm not.
You're not getting.
My mummy doesn't love me anymore.
Because obviously,
unfortunately,
I'm guy.
Yeah, I know to say that obviously everyone's having different experiences right now. In all seriousness, and wish you all the best. And as part of the hobby fam, can I say fam?
Yeah,
is that too?
Yeah,
is that too,
that can be hobby fam.
How much have you drunk, Russ?
I've not even had I've had a bit.
2 sips. Russ is sympathy drunk.
I think the problem is I'm using a straw and I put all the shots in first in the bottom. So I haven't really stirred it. So it's probably that I've just been drinking pure.
It's going to be quoting Gladiator later on.
Russ has only got 3 measures in there, but he's just drunk 3 measures. So
5 measures actually. It's a Long Island iced tea. You got 5 shots.
You said they were half measures. That's...
They were meant to
all
be.
The quality AOS content again that everyone's switched off and I've 2 people watching the video.
But you guys, you 2 that stay and watch. We love you guys.
We love it. We love both of you.
Thanks very much. No, I mean obviously, we wish everyone the best, and thanks for joining us.
Stay safe out there, guys.
And we wish you all well. Now we've got all that rubbish out of the way. No, just kidding. So I think we got a lot of
Captain Controversy himself at the moment. Yeah.
Is that? No, he's not on the show. So I think like we had a lot of questions about lists and tactics and tips and stuff. We've done quite a lot of that, and I think best places if you want any of that is directly ask in the Discord, and then we might pick it up later. But one of the things someone put in, which I thought was quite good, I think it's Drew. He said that he said about like how to be a good opponent.
Oh, that's a great topic.
Mate, don't ask me.
So hey, you do all right on best sports. So.
If you want sports votes, then you need a silly hat and you need to drink a lot and buy your opponent a drink. Take a selfie, James Tinsdale style. No, in all seriousness, I think it's probably a good thing to talk about, and like I think someone mentioned it in a sort of roundabout way about they play a regular opponent and there's an armyless mismatch. And I think maybe it's good to talk about the social contract that is wargaming and why it's not like any other hobby. So,
should we start with some things that you should just definitely do to be a good human in every game, and then go into the more subjective stuff after that? Like, you guys have?
I've no structure at all to this, so you can. I'll let you.
Okay,
so because I can. Right,
so I'm going to come at this from two different perspectives, and hopefully I do an all right job of one of them. So, if you're more experienced than your opponent, then I often think there is an obligation there to try and be the most helpful possible normally, but especially if you're more experienced than your opponent, you might actually know how to play their army better than them. That's the thing. Anyone who's going to a tournament, there's a really good chance in your first few games, if you are a tournament gamer, you're going to be in the top percentage of people in terms of the proper nerds who really know how Warhammer works. So if that is your opponent, help them out. Like, try and help them leave the game happy because they had a nice time, and also informed on their next games. And then there's kind of a follow-on to that, which is like check in throughout the weekend and see how their games went, have some chats with them. So I think that is one of the most important things you can do. Because I remember my first tournament, I didn't have a clue what was going on with anything. I remember my first game of Age of Sigmar, where Martin Morrow literally demoed me the game instead of playing. It didn't mean he let me win or anything. He smashed my teeth in. But he just treated it like an opportunity for me to leave more educated than I entered, and I massively appreciated that. So that's an important thing there. Just like, how you're doing it, you've got to get to that information. So to go to events regularly, blah, blah, blah. And then if you are more experienced, then do that. And if you're less experienced, then allow your opponent to help you out. Like, open that up before it is even a thing. Hey, dude, pretty new. I think I'm pretty tight on my rules, but like, let me know if there's anything up. And at the end of the game, if there's anything you would have done differently, do you mind if we have a chat about it? I think they are probably two of the most important things to have available to ask you.
Yeah, I think whenever I go to a tournament, I generally, if I've never played the opponent before, the first thing I sort of like previs is usually I apologize, because I'm quite, when you know me in real life, I swear quite a lot, and I'm quite like a potty mouth, and I don't mean like, it's just I just previsit and go, I swear, and say a lot of shit. Like, it could be offensive. I apologize if that offends you. If it does offend you, I'll try and like monitor the way I speak.
Yeah.
But the second follow-up question is, I usually just go like, do you go to many tournaments? Are you like, you're a regular tournament goer? And you usually then can sort of judge like your opponent then.
Yeah.
If this is like their first tournament, first game, but even then though, you kind of like just go, right, okay, so you talk them through things. Like, people usually, I find,
after deployment, you'll know as well if they start off with that and then they deploy. Like, I think you and I, Les, perhaps played Sean Lang in his first event when he was absolutely on it and amazing and did really well with a well left field Strange Ogre army or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're going to find some exceptions, but after deployment or during deployment, you'll probably get to know whether your opponent, because they may be super experienced at games but not experienced at tournaments, or they may think they really know what they're doing, and then it might turn out that perhaps there's some perspective that tournament gaming could give them. So
yeah, it's you need to sort of like see how they get on, and don't just sort of get to know the person. I think you're at a table with somebody for the next, depending on the event, 2.5, 3 hours. Get to know them as a person. I mean, obviously play the game and, make sure that you do things right. I think one of the key things that, that I take away from it is that if that's your first tournament experience, you don't want, whilst I want to win every game, like, I don't want it to sour my opponent's like enjoyment of the tournament experience. And I always try and I try and make sure that they play their rules. Like if I know a rule that they're not playing, I'll tell them, even if it's to my detriment, just so that just because it sets the tone then for the the whole thing. It's like, you forgot to do this, like, and it's part of your key rules, and it's really good if it's brilliant for me if you don't do it. I still tell them and be like, look, you need this thing you forgot to do.
That's a whoopsie. He's -1 to hit.
I think the first thing you need to do is crush them. Then when they're on the floor gibbering, you pick them up and be nice to them and make them feel better, because you need to break them down first. No, I'm kidding.
I wish we had a
kidding.
Just mute
mute me. No, I have the power. I think communication is the key thing. I mean, this is a social contract. Now, whether we're talking about tournaments, but even if you're playing in a garage or down a gaming club, the important thing is this is kind of the car crash of Age of Sigmar at the beginning, where they were like, just discuss with your opponent and agree on things. It's like, what is this devilry? No, you need to tell us how to have fun. We need the rules. And I think that when you're playing with your friends, someone you don't know, or even that is a tournament gives you a structured game and a way to play that game. But within that, there are levels of minutiae about how you behave, which are important. And there's a player's code in the General's Handbook. I'd highly recommend you read it. It's
it's great.
Turn up on time, give you a name, all that kind of stuff. But above that level, there's stuff that Byron talked on, which is the event level stuff. Particularly if you've been going to quite a few events, is try and make sure you go back and talk to that person or include them in your, because it can feel a little bit cliquey. Like if there's a group of people that are really good mates, and
they only get to see each other 4 times a year, they're just going to be like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, so sometimes it not necessarily it's not necessarily a thing about you, but if you are want to play someone who's completely brand new, doesn't know anyone, introduce them to a couple of people, so this is da 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 da, and then just try and involve around the event, catch up with them. How did your game go in the last round, or that thing you did that work for you this time, or and just try and have that bit of a backwards and forwards during the event is quite good.
I think one of the things that we always harken back to is that whilst it sometimes seems like tournaments can be very cliquey, I think you can use, I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning, there's a friend of the show, Dan, and Joe Purcell, and the way that they behaved at their first tournament, I think it should be the guideline of how you should behave at a tournament. I thought they were both the both of the guys, Dan and Joe, are close friends now, and that's just from them coming up to us at a tournament and being like I think Dan was or Joe was I've listened to the podcast. I understand you're playing Stormcast. Do you mind if I sit at your table and watch your game?
I think that might have been Dan actually.
I think it was Dan.
And that's the type of thing that I wouldn't have thought to do, but it was awesome. It was great.
And introducing himself, that's the thing as well. It's introduced hi, I'm Dan, and he shook my hand because sometimes in the podcast world, people come up to you and talk to you, and it's not that we're being rude. It's just that if you introduce yourself, it's the right way. I always say hey, this is first time I met Ben Johnson, I was just hey, you're Ben Johnson. I was hey, I'm Les.
You introduce himself to him.
No, but you know what I mean.
You're Ben Johnson. I'm Les Martin.
You're Ben Johnson.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, they're just like normal people. It's just treat them. It's very easy to think that you've got a banter with somebody without actually ever meeting them.
Having a chat in real life. Do you guys have things that you clear up at the beginning of the game? So my list of things, for example, would be I'm going to tell you everything I'm going to do throughout this game because I find it just helps keep things clear. If I check up on your rules, I don't think you're wrong or anything. I'm just trying to remember it, and I'll check it up anyway. And then, of course, if they do have their rules wrong, you've set a precedent there for you to take it without it coming across the wrong manner. Also, I'll tell them that if I roll my dice and they are not flat on the green, which means flat on the table, not on terrain, not on angle, not even if it's a book on the table and they're flat on top of the book, if it's not flat on the table, I'm going to re-roll those dice. And then you avoid a situation that could be awkward. And that's one of those things that some people, if you can rest another dice on top of it, that's flat at their club. That's cool, but avoid that before it comes to it. Is what
I
I'm
think
saying.
That's a really good thing. The flat on the green thing. It's
Yeah.
I've always done the same as you. It's if it needs to be flat on the table. If it lands on a book and it's flat, it's still not flat on the table, I'll re-roll it. And like the first time I said that with a guy, he was like, "Oh, that seems a bit strange. If it's flat, it's flat." So I rolled the dice, and it was a priority roll, and it was a 6. And I picked it up, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm re-rolling it. I told you I roll flat on the table." And he goes, "But you've won priority." I'm like, "I know, but I told you at the start, it needs to be on the table." And like, I mean, yeah, technically, maybe that was me being a bit. But it set the tone then. It's like, I'm not going to do this for my benefit. I'm going to do it because that's what I've said.
Being clear is super important. Like, super important. You're talking about a game that involves like hundreds of rules, different war scrolls, stuff like that. It's not going to hurt for you to both be like singing from the same hymn sheet or whatever.
I think it's good as well because it makes you a better player. Like, if you tell the opponent, like, I sometimes, like, when they're setting up, I might say, just be aware, I've got this unit that can deploy anywhere on the table, like 9 away, just so you're aware of it. Yeah. Because if they don't know the army, so normally I'll ask, like, once you introduce yourself and say, you know, "Hi, I'm Russ, whatever, you are, blah, blah, blah." I'll say, "What do you know do you know if you played against them before? Do you know what they do? What do you want me to explain?" And sometimes they'll say, "There's too many rules, don't bother explaining it all, just tell me 1, 2, 3, or just tell me as you go." But in my head, I think, I'm still going to preempt the situation where there's a gotcha.
Yeah. So I have a teleporting unit while you're making your screen, and it could land next to you, not in front of you.
So just be aware, these 2 things can come from wherever they want, or this spell allows me to teleport. And that's just a courtesy, because no one wants to get caught out, right?
And you're also you're not going to learn anything from that game if they do, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you rocked up with 9 Storm Fiends, they didn't know what they can do, and you plowed into someone's left flank because it was completely unprotected, and they protected the front of the right-hand side of their army. Like, you learned nothing from that, and your opponent had a very harsh lesson. But, you know, it's not great for either of you, is it?
No. I always try and give him the cliff notes. I always be like, "Do you know, this is my list, here's a copy of it. Do you know what anything does?" And I'll be like, I try and tell them the trick. I'll be like, "This is what I'm going to try and engineer." And then they know what's going on. And in the opposite, it's like, the way I look at it is that 90% of the things that I have in my list are available for free on the Age of Sigmar app. So for me to be able to explain that to my opponent and be like, "If you want to know anything, just ask me and I'll tell you the question."
Yeah. If you want my book at any point, just let them know.
And so here's the thing, like, again, with like the etiquette, if you feel that your opponent has a rule wrong, how do you then challenge that opponent? Do you just come out and go, "I think you've got that wrong," or how do you word it? Because I know me and Russ had this conversation the other day about you know, how he approached it. So just sort of like for the etiquette conversation that we're having, like how we need to approach it.
It's way easier if you say that at the start of the game, if I'm checking up something and it's your rules, it's because I want to be better informed for my future gaming. That makes it an easier thing the moment it happens. Now, if you've forgotten to do that, you can surreptitiously look it up on your phone if it's war scroll ability. So, have that charged, have it accessible. Like, your opponent's probably moving stuff around. You could just do that. Do it fast, but so they can take it back if it is something. If you think it's definite, then go in there, check it fast, and be like, "Oh, excuse me, like, just wanted to double check," and it is that way. And it just be like polite and direct as soon as possible, as fast as possible, is the way that I tend to approach it. It's just easier if you're going to be direct. And again, these things set a tone. If it happens early on and you do it politely, you might screw up. You might get something wrong later in the game, and they're going to feel that it's okay to do that too. It's a contract.
Yeah. You, Russ?
Depends. Depends on the person, depends on the situation. So I think for me, I would just start, because I don't go through like a list of like how to behave, how I'm going to behave, how we're going to behave during the game at the start of the game, because I think it might set the tone of the game. So I'm totally quite, I kind of just go with the flow, and I'm a very different gamer now than I was back in the day. Like, I'm not as keen, let's use that word, where I'm trying to like podium and stuff, and it all needs to be like cutting edge, like,
I think we're all not as keen these days.
No, but I mean, like, I will literally say, "Are you sure that works like that? I thought it was this." And you get FAQ, pre-FAQ, post-FAQ, GHB 19 or 18, 19, 20, 3 GHBs or 4. I forget how many it was. Was it 16? Has it been that many? I don't know.
I can't remember.
But you just go. Sometimes you just get muddled up, and like, I'm a lot more like, let's have a look, rather than it's this. So
Yeah,
rather than say like
you both check together.
it works this way, I normally make it like, oh, I thought it was that. Maybe I've got that wrong. I'll just have a look because I go like I just pretend like I'm the idiot basically.
Yeah. It's like
and
I've
mean,
always
you could
played
be-
that differently. Have I got it wrong?
yeah,
You could be pointing this out for your opponent's benefit as well. Bear in mind, if your opponent's making a mistake, it doesn't have to be to your detriment. It could be to their detriment.
Well,
and
that's the key for me is
Yeah.
you're picking up not just when it's to your advantage.
anything that's wrong.
Because I've told people before, like, oh, don't forget to reroll your ones. Oh, don't forget you've got that spell on. And what I do as well, I mark their spells sometimes. So if I play someone who buffs a unit and they don't put a marker down, I go, I know what's going to happen here. They're going to roll their attacks. Then they're going to go, oh, I forgot my reroll on a full moon when the tree is at 9 o'clock. And
then we roll all the dice and it'll spike and it'll be more than the last time. Because,
you're put in a position where you're like, well, that's what's happened. I've already mentally gone through that process of that relief or not. Then it's like someone's going to come out of that exchange better off, right? Yeah. So then you're like, do we re-roll it or not? And then as soon as you ask the question, you're putting the other person on the back foot because they're going to have to say, especially if it's to your advantage to re-roll it, then you effectively go in, be a nice guy, right? But actually it's better for me. Whereas I think it's always better to
marker there.
To either, if you do get to that situation, so say for example, you've done your attacks, you've gone past it, and it went really badly for you, then you remembered a reroll. Don't even, like, I've done it before, just don't even bring it up. Just move on. Like, because
it's the rule, isn't it? Never ask for takebacks. Never ask for takebacks. If a takeback's offered, that's different. Like, I'll always give a takeback if the opponent asks, but I will never ask for a takeback myself.
But even saying, like, oh, I forgot to re-roll those, makes your opponent think, oh shit, should I offer a take back? Yeah. So for me, I'm saying like you've gone past that point, and
if you should say that, you can say, "Remind me next turn."
Yeah,
is the way that I would approach that one. So I mean, Les has already mentioned it. Take that. How do you approach that? So kind of to follow on from what Russ was saying, if my opponent should have re-rolled and we both forgot, but the intent was there, and sometimes there's even a token there, and you just miss it. I'll often say like, well, you know, maths is this. Put a dice back in. Put 2 dice back in. Like you had 15 re-rolls and any 5s or 6 were hits. You know, like you should take a third of those, or you know, whatever it is. And that's one way to do it. But when is a take back too much? How do you approach that? Because these are difficult situations, right? Someone's gone to their first event. They're dead hot on their rules. They know that their OP has, like, you've both realised too late, and they want to take back. Like, what is too far gone? What isn't? Is it when it becomes too complicated to work out what should have happened? I know I've asked a really difficult one here.
I think it all depends on a couple of things. If I'm on table 1 at a tournament to win the event, or on the top row, and
that's way easier because people should know better in that situation.
I will not like this. I'm like, no, you forgot. Unfortunately, we're not in that phase anymore. Like, you know, and I would expect the same back to me. If we're on table 60 and it's the first go of the event, I have before let my opponent have a take back, which is ultimately cost me the game. But it's something that is, you know, it's like they deploy a unit. Like, it's a silly little situation. If you move a unit 9 inches away from me, you drop it from the sky, you get it in range, you get really excited about the fact that unit's going to go there, and then they make a 12-inch charge somewhere else, and then they go, oh, I've made that 12-inch charge I didn't think I was going to make. I'm going to go fight this. And then they roll the dice, they start doing the combat, and then I'm there, and they're like, oh, I forgot to charge the unit that was 5 inches away. I'm obviously make that charge.
I was going to say intent's really important, right? If both you and your opponent, like, let's say someone brought harpies down from the sky and they are canary down from the sky and they are opposite one unit, they got the 4+, they've moved toward that unit, and then they forget it in the charge phase because they rolled a 12 or whatever elsewhere. Like, the intent is really obvious at that point, and I think intent is clear. So this is another reason why it's important to talk about what you're doing, right? If I say I'm bringing those down so they can charge there, and at the point where that should happen, both your opponent might prompt you, and you've made it really clear
objective play, right? You know, if you drop your harpies and you're like that, you drop them from the sky and you drop them from the sky and you're like, that's definitely within range of the objective. You're talking to your opponent. That's what I'm going to do. Drop them from the sky on that objective. Then if something happens and you don't double check to see if they're in range, you're like, well, obviously I could have put them in range. There's nothing there to stop me doing it. It's like, it's just making sure you mentally tick those things off so you don't have that conversation, because you could get to a point where you go, these harpies are here. They are now just out of range of that objective. My fault, didn't double check they were in range. The time's up. If I thought they were in range to score that objective, now they're not, which means that I now don't win the game. Is it my fault or his? Like, you know, see, it's my fault because I didn't check it. So try not to get you, like, have that whole conversation. Be like, are we cool that they're on the objective? Yes. And then you come back to it and they're like, oh, they're just out. And I'm like, oh, but we double checked it. You know, it's talking through, having the intent as you play, I think.
Those things happen a lot, and I think there's a real, and I said this to you before, Les, and I know from experience really, there's points in games where you know deep down that you shouldn't win that game. So winning the game because they didn't move that model half an inch and they said they were going to, and then they've said, oh, it's not in range, and then you go, oh yeah, but it means I win. That's not a victory. No. That doesn't make you a better player. That doesn't make the other person feel good, and you're not going to feel good about that win. So, for me, take backs are fine as long as you're not taking back multiple phases, which has an impact on another decision.
But if I'd done that and then I could have done this in this phase, then we could have.
I remember watching a game. I'm not going to name names. It was many years ago, but I don't think you will know this one because before I knew.
I've got one in my head
and there was a game at a South Coast actually. And I saw this game happening, and there was a person with an army, and they were taking off their casualties and just throwing them into a pile. Now, in amongst this pile was a unit of cavalry, which were alive. Okay, so then the person who was throwing their models around because they were frustrated forgot they were alive, got 2 turns down the road, and then said, oh, if I can just move these here, then here, I can win. But it was like, well, but you forgot they were there, didn't move them, and the other person didn't realise they were alive because you've been chucking your models all over it.
And you're bad. It was like, it was your fault that you being an idiot.
And and I was like, well, you can't really expect that to be. And it was this whole thing where, and this is kind of etiquette. It's being clear and tidy and concise what you're doing. Avoids these. It's all about avoiding these things happening. So you don't want to have that conversation. You don't ever want. I remember playing a game, and it was against someone who was renowned as a cheat. And I was in Warhammer World, and it was a big event. It was one of the GT finals or something like that. This is going back probably like 10, 15 years. So it's a long time ago. And I had a unit of cavalry on an objective. Now the problem is there was a big rocky thing where it was to get units in their deployment zone. And I had a unit of Chaos Knights, and I couldn't balance my painted models on the movement tray on the rocks. So I took them off the tray. I said, they're there, right? But I'm going to put them behind because I don't want them falling over, because I can't imagine metal models chipping on rocks. It's going to be a bad thing for me. Anyway, we got to the end of the game, and then it was, they're not in range. I'm like, well, they are in range. He goes, no, they're there. And then they called a judge over, and they had to measure where the models were on the table, which was behind where they actually were. And it went against me. But the thing is, there was a secondary mission, a hidden objective, which I had achieved and they hadn't. Now, I thought at the time they had achieved it, so I'd lose the game, and I wasn't very happy about it. And I basically said, look, this isn't on. You know, you'll definitely know what you're doing. I said, it's fine if you want to be like that, but you're confirming everything I've heard about you. This is a very rare occurrence, by the way. That's why it's 15 years ago.
This
so it's not painting
at all.
No, it doesn't happen in AOS. I've never had it.
It's not happened. It's not happened again because
we
killed him with
it's an important lesson. Yeah. It's an important lesson because, like, sometimes at the end of the day it's toy soldiers, right? And sometimes you might play someone in a very, very, very rare occurrence that is going to be difficult like that. I did win the game because he hadn't done his mission I had, but anyway, that's the point. You will play someone at some point. If you play enough tournaments, you throw enough, you're going to get that 1% or 2% of people, right? But they are 1 or 2% of people. But you can't affect their behaviour, right? You can only affect your behaviour, right? So if I'm playing a game and I think I'm being clear, I'm letting them do take-backs, I'm letting them do things, and if they don't let me do something, I will quite frankly say to that person, I said, look, it's up to you. You do what you want. Obviously we had a situation earlier. I let you do it. It's up to you. If you don't want to do it, and they say no, it's fine. I go, okay, fair enough. But I'm not going to get angry or upset about it because it's toy soldiers, right? There was a time when I would get angry and upset about it, but that time was long ago. But I say that, when I'm playing a game, I just want to have fun. I want to relax, and I want to I like competitive play. I like the thought process. But any of these situations come up, and you're like, they can be avoided by, especially when you're playing strangers, by having that good opener conversation, because you then get a feel for the person. Like being clear in your turn, like they're in range of the objective, you agree on that, yeah, cool, right, thanks. Reminding them when they forget something that's not that impactful, but it's to their advantage. Like, oh, you didn't cast warp power on you want to cast that because you went past it.
You got reroll ones. You got reroll ones.
Don't forget to reroll the ones on your Giselles or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
You didn't move, so you get a rerollable save, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. And a lot of that comes with knowledge, and you might not know the rules well enough to do that. That's completely fine. We're talking about, but if they I personally, if someone said to me like, oh, I forgot to do this thing and it's important, and it's very easy to forget a charge, like you said, Les, like.
Yeah,
I'll just let them do it. Like, unless we've gone like 2 turns down the road, then you can't re-roll.
Yeah, unless it's like you've rolled for priority, and you're in the next thing. You're like, well, can't really go back now.
But if it's a decision like I was going to charge, but then I didn't because I wanted to be on the objective, and I thought the unit I charged you with would have killed you, but I rolled the attacks and it didn't happen. Do you mind if I now charge them? That's different, right?
Yeah.
So it's it's a situation, and I think it's just being able to have that conversation in a mature way. But these things don't happen that often, and most of the tournament stories that you get, I went to a tournament and this happened, it's just because the two people don't communicate.
Yeah,
they don't talk to each other.
You can get two perfectly, like there could be two people that I play that I both think are like A1 awesome opponents, and they just have a personality clash.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's when you got two big personalities. So I could enjoy playing someone who's super gregarious, takes the piss out of me, and then he could come up against Les. Les could take it as an offence, and then there could be like fisticuffs at dawn or whatever.
It's normally when you get two people who are very similar, right? That's normally when you get a clash.
Not saying anything. That's why I was worried about you and Matty. You're going to be best friends or worst enemies. So, but yeah, I have a question then that perhaps may come up more often. So you go to an event and you look down at the table and you know you are going to ruffle stomp your opponent. You're like, just rock, paper, scissors. Like I have turned up with, okay, I'll use an example that I've had. I turned up with like really flexible, resilient, mixed order, like Scalpel, and someone's turned up with like Glock.
30 Guard Berserkers at the height of its thing, or is it?
They've turned up to with like Glockkin or something that I can pick my fights and I'm faster than, or something like that. Or I've got some range shooting. How do you ensure that your opponent has a good time in that? Because I think this is perhaps the most common occurrence for our opponents to make sure. And indeed, the question that was asked.
You were the worst people about this.
I'll give you my perspective, just because.
Yeah.
If you go to a tournament and it's a competitive, you go into an event and you're like, right, I understand that some people go with soft lists for a different reason, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I'm not gonna go, I don't go easy on people when I play them. Like if I play someone and I think I'm just gonna treat that like any other game, but what I will do is I'll try and be a bit more chatty or talkative and stuff at the beginning, or maybe take a break.
Yeah.
You know it's going to be a quick game, right? So you say, do you want to go to the bar, have a drink, have a chat? And then you take a 5 minutes out between two turns or something. And if you finish the game, right, there's nothing worse than like you smash someone in 20 minutes, then you have that awkward thing of, do I spend the next 2 hours with you? But I don't.
I'll go.
Or do I just fuck off?
Like, I'll go and watch my mate's game.
Like, do you want to? Thanks very much. See you later. Like, just.
It's different when you're at Warhammer World because you go. Should we just go sit in Bugman's? I'll get you a coffee. Nice. Like we can chat. It's a little bit different, right? Particularly like if you're at the use Sheffield Slaughter as an example. Like there is just the bar right at Sheffield Slaughter, and then there's not many. So I mean, there's a little bit of
seating area and stuff. I mean, or you just. But I find that like you can tailor your approach to the game a little bit in terms of like how chatty you are, how many jokes you make, maybe if you or stuff like that. But fundamentally, I'm not gonna like give you a unit to kill out of like pity or anything.
No.
Or I'm just going to play the game like I play the game. Like,
Yeah, I think it's really important to own it. So this is something that I saw a couple of people doing. So when I got better at the game, and I'd go, and particularly when people like, so I had a weird occurrence where I got more best sports votes when I was playing Cunning Ruck than when I was playing Mixed Order, and I genuinely believe that part of the reason for that is I turned up and I had this thing where I would apologize to my opponent once before the game started. Like I was turning up with one of the most obscene armies that has ever existed. Hey mate, your playtest, it's your fault. And
can't use that one.
I love you. And obviously that's a joke, guys. It's Les's.
Like we have any power.
It's Les's fault.
It's always Les's fault.
No, it's my fault. I honed a very honed list anyway. But I would turn up to the table and I would just tell my opponent what I'm pretty sure was going to happen. Without trying to look like an arrogant arsehole or whatever, but I turn up and say, "This is
unlucky, Byron. You failed." No,
wrong. I was wrong the moment I started painting the army.
Yeah.
I turn up and I'd be like, "This is this is
a waistcoat."
Oh, so many people have asked me to fuck them in my waistcoat. I'm
on the table, right? You mean? Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Oh wow! Like, I have to decide if I'm going to edit that or not.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
I'm getting warmer. Yeah. I think it's a tinsel scarf. Anyway, so I just turned up
like the whiskey neat, and those two are like.
5 shots.
So it's my one desperado. I'm a little boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I turn up and I just say, I'm practicing this for ETC. It is bloody obscene. Apologies. And then I genuinely think this was helpful. I say, I'm planning on kicking your teeth in because I need to be at my absolute maximum potential. And then whatever happened in that game, the worst it could be was neutral. So obviously that could come across really wrong if you got the wrong end of the stick, but then your opponents won the game, so they're happy anyway. So there isn't a downside to potentially saying this is pretty hardcore. I've come here to try my best to win, whatever it is, whatever your approach is, your reason, your justification, or I've always wanted to make OP Siege Skyfire horrific.
You just do what Nick Pym did at Denmark, where he just pointed at his opponent and laughed at him. He's like, "You're getting fucked, son." That's amazing.
So that's one approach, but you could just sand the edges off a little and take my approach, and I did that, and I had number one, I had some great games, some great opponents, but number two, I actually got more best sports of that army, and I think it's because I just owned it. It's important. If you've turned up with something, you've considered it for 3 months, you've built it, you've bought it, you've built it, you've painted it, and you're rocking up and you know that you're taking whatever it is, an Uzi to a knife fight, then
an Uzi 9mm.
You're there, you've done all of that, you know exactly what you are packing, so to speak. Just own the experience, be I have brought an absolute beast of an army, I'm going to try and ruffle stomp you, and then be a gentleman.
I think it's really weird with the sports thing, right? Because I can remember I had more sports votes running Dom Hain, all the Eels, Idenef than I had with Fire Slayers. I had so many people whinge when I was playing Fire Slayers. And both of them are very, very hard armies, but
yeah, they are.
But one of them you can actually fight and kill.
But the thing is,
the Eels, you can actually kill them, right? You can actually, they're fragile, right?
Yeah, but
they get to roll some dice.
So
you take a couple models off, right? Whereas the Fire Slayers is nah.
I'll just move a block forward.
Yeah,
you don't kill
just
anything.
block.
Move a block
and not only
forward,
that, you precursor it with, you're not going to be able to do anything about this.
Yeah.
And it probably takes 2 hours, whereas the Deepkin's over in 25 minutes. So
the scene for 300. You're going to enjoy this.
Yeah, but at least it's over quickly, right? This is what you want. You don't want it lasting 2 hours. Let's be honest.
This comes down to, which is a really meta version of this discussion, which is picking the right army. If you're concerned about giving your opponent a good game, there are some things that are bad. And I'm not saying this means you shouldn't take them. I've taken plenty of armies that do different aspects of this or multiple aspects of this. An army that you have to play the tits off and has 1,000 things to remember and zones, and you've got to play 3 turns ahead and all of that. It's harder to be a good opponent when you're playing one of those. And that for me, that was my mixed order army, 13 different units, even if I knew all their scrolls, all these AoEs and stuff like that. It's much easier to be a nice opponent when you turn up with 3 more crushers and 30 orcs and you just smash it into people. It's also easy to have fun yourself. in that situation. And there's different types of fun. I got a massive amount of enjoyment from playing my mixed order, but it was like attending like a final exam every single event, and I'd be knackered at the end. So you having fun is a really good way for your parents to have fun.
Well, you're going to be less moany, less tired. You're going to have less things to forget, less rules to get wrong.
Yep.
You're going to be able to have more social interaction at the table because you don't need the full. This is why I stopped playing Nighthaunt. And it's because Nighthaunt, you need the whole game, and it takes
one
horde
unit.
And you're like, actually, yeah, I always do that. In my army, I only have one big unit. That's it, and I just maximum because I didn't want to go to a table and have to be all business at the table.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're playing an army like that, you've got to be very like, and I did do it, and I would say to people at the table, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit robotic, which kind of fits into my wheelhouse at the table because I need to be on it, otherwise we're going to run out of time. And I said, like, it's nothing personal, we can chat afterwards, whatever. But I personally just stopped taking those armies, and it's nothing because I want to be. If it was the best army in Age of Sigmar, I still wouldn't want to play it because it's not, for me, it's not about chalking up the W's. It is in a way. I like the coming out on top of a game, but I like to do that in a way that I'm not stressed out at the table, and I find those armies quite stressful to play because of the time constraint.
They are. You'll have a better idea. You'll literally feel like kind of tournament hangover the next day without the alcohol involved.
Oh yeah,
you will feel more exhausted having played an army like that. You kind of concentrate. There's people talking around you. People come watch your game. You can't deal with it. Whatever it is. So it is a genuine
to catch up with people because, like, you finish your game, you've got like 5 minutes for the next game, and you spend that 5 minutes putting your 100 models back on a tray. It's like, and then you end up with a bad back because if you're like me and you've got a bit of a gut on you, leaning over a table for 2 hours moving models.
Especially if your army rockets over there or deploys over there and with 90 models or anything. So one horde unit
you massively, right?
Yeah. It does. Really does. If you're somewhere noisy and echoey, it's even worse as well. That adds to it.
I was going to say, like, the event that you won, the final that you won, Byron, you were on table one playing Liam. I know. Yeah, you were on table one playing Liam, like friend of the show Liam, and I was on table 3 playing Chris Myhill.
Yep.
The round before I played Sean Lang, and Sean Lang broke me mentally because it was Scorched Earth.
It
was Scorched Earth. It was. I took the Stormcast TM build, which is like Stardrake Fulminators. We can talk about this later date. And he took Tzeentch at the height of their power, and it was Scorched Earth, and he burnt all my objectives because I deployed like an idiot on turn 1. And I was like, I literally just went, I'm going to quit. There's no point in playing the game. No point in playing the game. There's no way for me to win. And then I looked at it and I said, do you mind if I have like 5 minutes? And he went away. I had 5 minutes. Come back. And I was like, if I do this, win priority here, I then burn all of his objectives. If I can burn all of his objectives for 2 each, then I win the game by 1. And I had to play like an out of my skin. And it was so stressful. I was like really thinking about it. And I basically did that, got everything my way, beat him by 1. And it just broke me.
Come out the bubble and you were exhausted.
Yeah. Come out the bubble. I basically went for a drink, talked to you about it, had a hug. I then walked and played Chris Myhill, and I must have given Chris Myhill the easiest game of Warhammer I've ever played because I just mitched it all forwards, and he just went, "Okay, cool, take it off." And because I just couldn't focus, it was that 5 game into 6 fatigue that if I'd have beat Chris, I would have been, me and you would have been 1-2 at the heat, and it was like it broke me, and that's the thing. It's like you need to almost think that, like Russ said, the fatigue that comes from playing these armies at competitive level.
Like, how on earth is your opponent? Like, imagine if I sat down, like I'm doing my whatever it is, GCSEs at the end of high school, and someone tried to have a conversation with me while I'm doing my final exams. Like, how? I'm not saying you shouldn't take these armies, but just be aware it's really hard to give people a good game. Now, you can take an absolute beast of a list. I'm going to drop the one that I always drop. You could take 4 Monster Beast Claw, unintended, and you will have a great time. Your opponent will have a great time. You'll be playing just like, if it's not top tier, just the tier below top. I think really good army. It does everything in the relevant phase of the game. There's no up
to use. Yeah, there's League of Legends speak. It's
so
not quite S tier, it's A tier.
What's the just play tier league thing?
What does S stand for?
I don't know. Special.
Shit hot, mate.
Super.
Silly tier.
Super shit.
Super tier.
Anyway, So if you're taking an army like that, it's really easy. People like being fought in combat as well. That's another one, especially if you're in the States. People don't like running around. Fighting stuff is fun, and that is everyone enjoys that more, and particularly in America, I noticed that's the thing. You see, that's why you'll see some armies getting knocked down for sports aggressively, Adepticon, stuff like that. Perhaps that you wouldn't expect in the UK. And it's true. It's more fun to put your dudes into combat, hit each other, and for both of you to take some men off, rather than for that person there to zap you with 17 spells and for you to move your entire army. That's the thing. But it's easier to have more fun yourself when taking that type of an army. And there are considerations. If you've got this unit that is really good, and you could take 2 of it, or you could take 1 of this horde, and then you could put in a monster that's just slightly worse, you will have a better game. Your opponent might have a better game, and you might not be tight for time at the end, which is exhausting. Yeah. So there's kind of a load of meta list consideration.
I think it just comes down to understanding your environment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you know you're going into a tournament, and whether it's a tournament that's heavily weighted, or you can even ask people I haven't gone to this blah, what's it like, or blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you're within the confines of the rules. So what you do within the rules, that I think is allowed. Completely fine. It's allowed, right? And it's not really your responsibility to tone that down. I think one of the things that I don't do particularly well on getting sports stuff, because I'm very matter of fact at the table. But I think
I was going to say it's because you're a knob.
Yeah, thanks, but. I
like
to think I'm not, but what I mean is I don't get negative experience, but I don't get I don't stand out as a positive. I'm sort of in the middle, really. I think one of the things I think is really important, and I give people hard games so they have to think, and then therefore it can be difficult. I like to think I give people a difficult time at the table in terms of what they have to think and do on the table. So one of the things I think super something I really hadn't really done early on in my gaming stuff is actually be complimentary when they do something goes well for them.
Yeah.
So
great point.
If they roll over average, is you could do that 2 ways. You can go, oh fuck me, you got away with that, didn't you? Or you can go, oh that was awesome. Well, I wish my that was
just call an arsehole in a respectful manner.
And you can actually be impressed by their performance of their unit, but in a nice way, wow, and not even might never do that, but a positive way, and be and I'm really bad at it, so that's why it probably comes across really badly. But you just say,
I'm not even mad, Backstrap.
Impressed. I'm just impressed, and and just be wow, that was a bit more impactful than I thought it was going to be, and or that was a good piece of play, or I really like, and I like at the end of the game as well to sort of say, I think you could have had that if that had gone your way. It was really unfortunate, but I'm not going to complain too much because I won, but or whatever. But you can almost notice the thing that they might be thinking, oh, if only that had happened or this had happened, and almost preempt it and say, I think you had me there. I was really lucky I got away with that. I thought you were going to take that from me. And
that's great points. Yeah, don't be needlessly negative. I'm gonna go on some rules for people now. Don't. Okay, look, this is a pattern, and this is how to avoid losing games when you think you're going to lose them as well. Les has already given an example of this. He thought everything was against him. Wait, it took some time. If stuff isn't going your way, don't waste mental effort building complaint equity by listing the things that are continuing to not go your way. You are literally improving your chances of definitely losing by doing that. Don't do that. It's stupid. You are bad. Stop it.
Yes.
Now everyone's done this. Oh, now this is happening. Now this is happening. You're making your life worse. You're not concentrating on how you could win the game, and you're making the game worse for your opponent. So try your best not to do that. Don't be oh, those walls are really bad. I'm going to roll these same dice again. Look, due to the universal laws of bloody averages, they've now done average. Well done. So, avoid that stuff.
Don't throw your models on the floor, which is another
that's a fairly solid one.
Although that makes it entertaining, but
hold on tightly, let go lightly. So do everything you can to win in the right manner. Yep, exact example of it. And the point at which the game's not going your way, just accept it. If it's not going your way and someone's had some sick rolls that you could do nothing about, and you've pretty much done your best and everything you could have done, you can be thoroughly pleased of yourself as a gaming individual, and then just give your opponent the best game of it. That's what else are you going to do, right? Sit there and moan. Whose day got better as a result of doing that?
No one's, right? It's
and play Beast Club.
I think it's like watching John Wick, right? So this is right, you watch John Wick 1, and like there's sad bits and there's bits you think he's in danger, and it's a good film because you're like, it's back and forth, it's close, you're not quite sure it's going. You're probably going to be good because he's the main character and stuff, and it's a film. You know, that's how it happens, right?
For John Wick, he's probably
going to be alright. Yeah. And there's 2 more films if you haven't seen already, but or 4, I don't know. I forgot watching it. It's like Fast and Furious.
Lots of them.
Anyway, then the second one is like he just walks into any situation and he headshots it. It's like headshot. And you're like, that's really
Pike
dull, right? That's really boring, right? That's dull. So
no, I know I feel bad for saying that,
but having no, I mean the film, right? The film. You might go, the way he shot that guy in the head for the 80th time was really entertaining. I personally got so bored, and like it's cool stylistically, but at the end of the day, like when you play the game Warhammer, you don't want to John Wick it because like it's boring as hell, right? And I think when you have a game that's close, those are the ones that stick in your head. And basically, what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is that Keanu Reeves shouldn't play. No, I can. No, is that like you can take a cutting edge army and you can take an army that's really competitive, and you can play a tight game and you're going to enjoy that. And like you might play it as long as you do it. I think if you play a game that's really one sided and you're just headshotting everything on the table, just do it in a cool way. Because then people won't
like
mind.
Slanesh back in the day,
just be cool, and then people don't mind.
Just be
like,
nice with it.
I got shot in the head by Keanu Reeves. It's amazing. Like,
don't apologise on every roll,
and don't. This is the thing I was going to say to you, Byron, because you said I'll go and apologise up front. Don't apologise. Don't apologise for doing the thing you're totally entitled to do, and you're going to do, and you intended to do, because it's false. But what you said is, when you said I apologise, you don't really. What you do is you precursor it with how you're going to approach the game, which is different. Yeah. So there's nothing worse than someone stomping your head in and saying sorry as they're doing it. It's it's like, well, stop doing it. If you're gonna, if you feel bad about it, right, stop doing it.
Own it.
But if you're doing it and you're enjoying it, then I would rather you enjoy it. Because if I was on the other side of the table, I'd be loving it, right? I'm smashing the hell out of this. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Like when people say to you when you're playing, they're like, "Oh, like I'm really sorry, like I'm not sure," and I'm like, I'd be doing it. I'd be like, "Yeah," like just
make them feel good about it, so they can enjoy it. Because when you have the opportunity,
I'm just like, dude, I'd be like, don't feel bad about kicking my teeth in because I'd be like I'd be doing exactly what you're doing.
What would you be
Because
doing?
at the end of the day, everyone wants to be John Wick. Right? Yeah. So if they're being John Wick at you, don't complain about it. Just go, that's awesome, man. I wish I was cool as you. Like, and not in a sarcastic way, but like.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russ the Face Veal and Long Island and iced tea combined equals John Wick.
Yeah, just be John Wick.
So, moving on, because we could talk about this forever, yeah?
Yeah, and we have already, to be honest.
We have talked about it. It's like 4 hours of like just tabletop etiquette.
If you're still here, Russ, I'm impressed.
If you're still here, so just to get me and Byron onto bullying you into doing a Slanesh army. Now. What was that?
Just because I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not actually stopped recording.
Oh, right.
I'm just joking.
Oh, right. I thought you were actually, because you did it in the voice of like seriousness of like.
I know you did it in dad Russ.
He did it like, I'm gonna.
Guys, can we be serious?
Hang on, getting a call.
Byron, stop putting pencils up your nose. We're about to record.
Yeah,
you're in a business. Try and be a grown up.
Try and be a grown up. So,
still trying.
Moving on. So, basically, guys, what would you say is your best model? We've had this. Haven't we? Like, what's our best model for like the year? Like, what would you say is the best release?
Or like release?
No, mate.
Or that GW brought out. What do you mean, mate?
I don't want to talk about paint. That's really good. Yeah, no, I love that. No, but like, what would you say is like the best release then? Byron, you've got an amazing thing. Russ is doing his Diachasm stuff because he's on the edge. He's on the edge.
I mean, is it Sigvald? Is it the? Is it called Lord? Is it called
Lord? I think you can count Sigvald.
Is it the Lord of Pain, the Slanesh dude? Is that the awesome one?
Yeah,
I think it might be. I think it might be Lord of Pain.
Yeah.
Do you not think? Like, I think. Well, looking back at it, I mean, I love the Lumineth stuff. But I think for me...
No, they got cows on their heads, Les. You're wrong. There we go. Next.
Your opinion is wrong. Move on. No.
Move on.
What actually come out this year for AOS? Let's start there. Because I just get like release blind. It's almost like
A load of war bands.
Byron, you need to do this because me and Russ can't talk.
Okay. Well, oh shit.
Good luck.
Panic. I'm gonna panic. Put the bumblebees on.
Nice
So
one,
I
Les.
just
Got us out of that one.
I end up skipping the war bands, but they like most of those war bands are bloody amazing, and it's probably going to be if you take a box that has come out rather than an individual model, it's probably one of the warband ones because they each contain out of 10 models like 6 that are incredible. So
The K-Knight Shadowstalker type.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the ones with like the Waylander and stuff like that in it. I say
Yeah.
Waylander, it's like the Alf with the double crossbow.
they're awesome.
Yeah, Drizzt Do'Urden style. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. I picked Lord of Pain, but for me it's going to be Sigvald, I think, and it's not because I don't even think I'd enjoy painting Sigvald hugely. I don't know what he's going to be like to assemble, but if we take a very relevant example, I've got a Keeper Secrets there. That I don't enjoy assembling this one fucking bit. It's a nightmare.
do you hate building models, though, don't you?
I don't like them anyway, and this is a perfect example why. Look, it's got stupid gaps under its knees, and I had to sand the side of its thighs, and it may want to kill myself. Visually, though, that model is as good as Games Workshop have ever done in my mind, of both like homaging an old model, which a lot of people have got a lot of love for, and without losing any aspects of that or diluting it or making it more like PC or whatever because it's Laneige. They took it and they made it bloody awesome, brought it up to date, make it like bigger, better, amazing presence, and it just embodied everything about what it should be. And I think that Sigvald managed to do that from his old model to his new model just splendidly, which is a perfect word for Sigvald to be using. Magnificently.
I think, yeah, like when you look at it, I think for me, and this isn't just because I'm trying to like force Russ into it. I honestly think that Sigvald and the Dread pageant from Dire Chasm are probably some of the best models I've ever seen.
Russ's upcoming Slanesh Mortals army is my favourite thing that's happened this year.
I just buy things and don't do them. That's the problem.
That's a hobby, though, right? Buying Games Workshop product is a hobby.
Of purchasing. Just piles of boxes and
They have a price rise every 9 months. I think it counts.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
good point. Damn, he's rambled me. No, so I think I don't know, like it's difficult because you could look at the Mega Gargant and say that kit as a kit is really good.
Yeah.
Personally, I think what did we have like? Was it A for War? One of the first things that got released early in the year. Because Zinch and Kharadron was that early this year.
Yeah.
Before all the COVID shenanigans happened and 40k and stuff, so it was them and Slaves to Darkness. I think were last year, end of last year. There might have been.
I think
it was the start of this year because it was just before. No one's ever took a Slaves to Darkness army to a tournament.
Oh, you're going to get so many comments now. I took it to this one, actually. I think we'll find.
Right, to this virtual tournament.
Sure.
I think
it might be this year. Yeah.
Mate, no one's going to be listening to this on YouTube. So like because you like the triade of like etiquette we talked about and drunk Russ being offensive at the start.
Oh yeah, I was the offensive one. Yeah,
he's offended John Wick fans.
I know. I didn't say it was a bad film. I just said that if you're gonna shoot someone in the head 100 times, just be cool like John Wick. Then people don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
That was the point.
But I mean, I think this year's mostly been 40k, right? But
the Gargants is a really good point. I think, that's very different from anything that's been out before, and it's super flexible without it being dreadful, and it's a joy to paint. So
I mean, like, I can't put Lumineth in any way, shape, or form.
No. You don't like them, though, do you?
Well, it's not. It's not. It's more than that. It's the fact that they're not a good experience as well. Even if you almost have to like go through the experience if you like them, like you have to really like them. Of building them and painting them, I just don't.
I think that you're probably right. For die-hard fans, that was for a lot of people, maybe was everything that they were wanting. But if you're not a die-hard, there's quite a high like conversion cost to starting that army, dealing with spears that are really thin, or the shields are great. I do an army of Lumineth shields.
Shields on bases. The ghost elves.
Drop of a hat, mate. I love those shields.
Yeah.
If you had to pick,
Yeah, I think
what is it? If you pick one, then Russ.
If I pick one, for me right now, it's the Myrmidon set that they revealed with Sigvald, which are the helmeted Slanesh warriors.
Fair, yeah.
Like, for me, I think they're... I mean, but I don't know until if I get my hands on them and I paint some, I might... They hate them after painting 2 of them, knowing that I've got to do 20. But
haven't you got like a Lord of Pain?
I have got a Lord of Pain, yeah.
Can you like trial, like, I mean, he's got some armor, you could trial the stuff on that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I would immediately know exactly how I'd paint them, and it would immediately just be put in paint to model. And I do like the armored mortals, which is what I said to, which is why the Slaves to Darkness was, I was trying to, like, crowbar in a list with that. And I think if there were tournaments happening, I would have had it done and I would have been playing events with it. But I think because there's no events, because of COVID, I haven't painted them, because I've been like, well, by the time there are events, I'm going to be excited about something else. And it's a typical example. I really like Armoured Warriors, and they release a brand new set of really nice Slaves to Darkness models, which I'd say actually probably the best release this year for me. And actually then they go, oh, actually, here's a Slanesh mortal army.
They're like,
looking
hold my beer.
Cool. And I'm like, well, you've just upped the ante with those. And then I'm thinking about all the conversions, and I just think Warriors in general, I mean, like, it's why I like, the Worm Splat. I don't know if they were last year or this year, I don't know, but they're a really nice warband for Beastgrave. That's the Nurgle Warriors. I think they're fantastic. And, like, all these stuff, I mean, pretty much every model they release, even the Lumineth, are amazing, right? So it just comes down to what you like. And I think for me, I like Warriors of Chaos. So it's that Stark Collector's set, I think, was released this year. I might be wrong. It was revealed last year at Blood and Glory, right?
That was right, yeah.
It was revealed in November last year and released this year, I think. And that, to me, that starter set, that Start Collecting, is as a box set, I think, is perfect. Like, pretty much.
Mate. Yeah.
It's a different.
But I like Warriors, so.
I quite like the Khainite Shadowstalkers, and I quite like Sigvald. I think, like, looking at it, I think the Khainite Shadowstalkers, if I think I would love them, but I think I wouldn't enjoy painting them because they're quite complex models. But like as a model, like as a set.
If you're going to paint an army on a theme, if something was going to make you start an army that involved that model, what is the one that you would pick?
Which model? Oh, you mean whichever model you pick is the army?
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Well,
right.
Slaves to Darkness, isn't it, for me?
Yeah. Russ has got it.
I think
because it's how I generally do armies.
Yeah, for me, it would be Sigvald or the Gargant making me collect their respective armies for sure.
Yeah, I think Sigvald would tie me into if I was ever going to do another Slanesh project, I'd do it would be with Sigvald would get me into it because it's just so cool.
Did you get into Lumineth because of the models though?
I didn't see the models until they were released.
So it was more
I got into Lumineth. I got into Lumineth. So like my big thing was over the years, I've always played 40k, and I've always played Dark Angels, and I've always played Aldar. I've owned so many different Aldar armies over the years, and I really enjoyed the high elf, like martial elements when I got into Warhammer in 8th edition, because I got into Warhammer late, and it was always like the high elves had that sort of like they ticked that box for me of really liking like having Phoenix Guard and White Lions and stuff like that, and it felt like aspect warriors for an Aldar army. But I think that the problem is because I'm such a GW fanboy and an heavy metal fanboy, is that I could never see past the crisp white of painting those the high elves that way. Loved the background, like fully enjoyed all the old woods stories with Anarian and stuff like that, and just fell in love with the army. I've never actually owned one because I could never get past painting like the multitude of spear elves and the like hordes of white lions back in the day, and I just couldn't do it. And I kind of, when we play tested the Lumineth, I wasn't actually involved much with it. I was involved in the playtesting, but I didn't take the lead on it or anything. And it just really spoke to me with the elements that you've got with the, like the Alaris Stone Guard and stuff. They feel very much like an aspect warrior, and it kind of like that got me excited, because like ultimately I've tried many different armies over the years, and the only armies that I really love in Age of Sigmar are Stormcast Eternals, and now Lumineth.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like that's what got me into them. I was always going to want to collect Lumineth because of the way that they, like the Stone, like aspect warriors, and then like the wardens and the sentinels and like guardians. And for me, that was what got me excited about it. And then I saw the models, and like I think because I was so excited about the project, I think that sort of like paved over some of the cracks of maybe some of the issues I may have had with the models. And even now, I don't think there is any issues with the models. But I think because I was so into it and so invested, it was like I actually don't care. I'm all in. I like, I just love it. So for me to be able to sort of like do that, and sort of like I love Techless, I love like all of that, and then the background that Phil Kelly like wrote for the book. And like if you haven't listened to it, I'd recommend listening to the podcast where Phil Kelly talks through. I don't think it's Stormcast anymore. It's called something else, isn't it? It's the Warhammer Community podcast. Yeah. And Phil Kelly talks through the background, and like he just sums up what like they are essentially Aldar for Sigmar, which is why I'm like, actually, do you know what? I love him, and
cool.
That's why I'd be really into it. And I know people don't like Techless, but I kind of like the model, and I know people don't like Altharian, but like I kind of like the model, and and I think that, there's going to be.
I like Altharian model. I wasn't sold on it, and I painted one for a commission, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Like for me, I just think I love Lumineth, and I love Stormcast, and like I think that I'll always love both of those, and that's kind of like.
I think like Lumineth are almost like your OBR for me. Like I love Death, and I love everything about Death, and they're kind of like the Tomb Kings reimagined and all that. And I remember seeing the rules, playtesting it, never seeing the models, didn't see any of them early. Then I saw the reveal of the models, and I was massively not on board with the aesthetic. Like I was just like, okay, but I don't know. And then I watched like Phil Kelly talk about the background, and that got me more excited. And then when I actually did the army, they've grown on me. Like the models have grown on me, but it wasn't the knockout blow I wanted it to be. Like, and that's just.
But do you think that's because you built it up? Do you think that's because you built it up in your head? Yeah. Like when almost like you because you want it to be everything. I think then are a little bit disappointed.
I think it's also flavoured by your painting experience, right? So I think OBR are quite a hard army to do. There isn't really middle ground with them. Let me know if you think otherwise on this, Ross. It's either like you spend, and this is actually the hallmark of older models. Like generally speaking, newer models do a good job of avoiding this, but it's happened with OBR somehow. So you can get like a wicked speed painting job, all things considered, and the time you spend, you're like, that is super solid, super passable. They're pleased with that. And then it's like you could spend like 50 hours on Catacross, and he could look baller. And then between, it's not progressive. It's just like there's this big open rift.
Yeah,
and you're on one hand or the other, and I think you
almost like can get to like 80% of looking great
in really 20% of the time,
and then the last 20% takes 80% of the time, basically. So you're like, it's that when you start highlighting individual bones. I remember I did it on my Tomb Kings back in the day. I was excited to learn highlighting because I'd never really done it before, and I was highlighting individual bones on my Tomb Kings. That's how it was. And I got to when the OBR, I wanted to do a high-end army, and I think it was looked at it and went. I was like, this isn't going to work, and I just
the economy of effort. Economy of effort is really difficult.
Yeah, and it's some of those things, and I think the model didn't lend itself to a high quality paint job.
No, that type of molded, very busy armor. It's kind of like the
you could almost paint
models.
Yeah, you could almost, to be honest, you could almost paint all the banding and the armor and the banners really nicely, and do a really quick job on the bone and do some OSL, and it would look amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not putting the extra effort to make the bone look really nicely blended and highlighted isn't going to add enough to warrant the effort.
You either paint it like the heavy metal team, or you paint it some middle ground, don't you? Because you're not going to get to that level.
And I do actually commend the paint jobs on the heavy metal version of those models. They are absolutely out of this world. If you get the chance to see them at Warhammer World in the cabinet, it's well worth taking 5 minutes to look at them because they are absolutely out of this world.
Yeah. Hard
What about you,
army
Brian?
to get best painted with, I think, OBR.
Yeah. What about you, Byron? Where do you, what do you
if I-
think? Like,
I always
army-wise? 'Cause
army, I like Gargants or Sigvald and friends. The Gargant is a bloody awesome kit, and I like that you can have like barely any of them and have an army. Because if we're looking at outside considerations, the assembly isn't awful, and it could have been way worse on a model that was kind of that different to everything else that went beforehand. So I'd probably pick the Gargants, I reckon.
I find it, like, the thing about the Gargants that does my head in, and this is going to sound really weird, but the model is so good, right? The kit is so good, but everyone's changing it. And it's like, because it's like, actually, I want to convert it, I want to customize it, and it's a big model, and I can have fun with it, and I've got a theme. And I was looking at mine, and I was like, I'm going to cut it up, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to put like great and clean on bits and all this. I'm like, but how many like stock do you? And it's like you almost feel like you need to convert it because like you only got 3 models, so why wouldn't you?
When the base
them,
model's amazing anyway,
and you're like, and then you're like, oh, it's such a shame. But I mean, it is great. I mean, I love some of the giants that have been online that people have been posting. Like,
did you see that style shaded one today that like Johnson was talking to you?
No,
I can't think of the guy's
no,
name.
so.
It's absolutely out of this world. It looks like a cel shaded computer game from the like the early 2000s, like Jet Set Radio. I'm trying to find the image on my phone, and I'll put it in the I'll put it in our WhatsApp group, and then put it in the actual video here.
Comment below if Les hasn't done it.
Comment below if Les hasn't done it.
It's all
Chances are I've not done it.
We don't care.
I think the Gargants were great.
It's been a weird year though, hasn't it? Because like, although there's been releases, and it's just felt like because
it's normally punctuated by events. Like there's no way to break it up. The last 9 months took 3 months in our head, and that makes it really difficult to kind of separate it, I guess.
And I think as well, like my motivation for armies and stuff comes from gaming, and like even like my Thursday group that we normally game, not GW stuff really, although we do a bit of Underworlds every now and again. It's like we just don't. I just haven't played anything like so. Although we talk about it and we've done all these videos and all this content started off in like August this year on YouTube, I haven't really played any games other than that one day we had between lockdowns at Carl Breakspear's pad, Breakfest as it was officially named. Oh yeah,
we had a game.
Yeah, but it's a playtest game, isn't it? It's not really.
It's don't game.
It's not really the same.
So
that has to be edited with an app, right?
No, that is painted, dude. He's doing a 360 video. The guy's name's Ash McEwen. It's at Ash_McEwen. So MCEWAN. And it is the most insane thing I've ever seen.
That's an optical illusion. Ash, tip of the hat to you, mate. That's baller. You should be super.
And apparently it works in 360. If you zoom in, you can see where he's painted it. Because like I thought it was just. I thought like there's no way that's painted. But like, if you look, you zoom in, you can see on the
probably the knee is probably the best bit.
Stuff like that. It's ridiculous, mate. You are like commended, like hats off.
That is so.
I'm still not sure it's real.
He's done a 360 video. He's doing a 360 video.
I don't care. It's all magic.
All right then. Well, people can have a look at it and make up their own minds. We'll do some.
You can edit video
work.
It's fine. Put it for a filter. He's Snapchatted it or something. It's got cat ears.
Snapchatted it. It's got like a bunny face.
Yeah.
Like, some girl trying to get you her OnlyFans.
Exactly. I'm not joining your Only Giant group. Sorry.
I definitely joined Ash OnlyFans.
Okay. So what is do we have another viewer question? We've kind of answered a load of stuff about what I mentioned earlier anyway, just with our armies and stuff like that.
To be honest, not really. I kind of top 5 lists, battle planned and combos or stuff like that was one of the ones. So,
top 5 lists.
Well, it's lists / combo /
for power.
Doesn't really say. It just says top 5.
Well, if it's for power, it goes Lizardmen, 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 Lizardmen.
No, it just says your favourite. So
okay, it doesn't go Lizardmen anywhere then.
Top 5 models that made you fall in love with the hobby all over again.
Oh, we kind of.
But not in the last year, just in general.
Oh, okay. Not for assembly, but for I started the hobby when I was a kiddie wink, as did all of us. And that like the place that like gets me real hard in the nostalgia is when they take an old model and they make it awesome and new in all the best ways. So
when they sex it up a bit.
they make it modern, and I'm like, oh, forever I've thought about painting a Lord of Change that his wings didn't fall off because they were metal, or whatever the situation is, or it wasn't poopy resin, and then they bring out some baller, kick-ass, incredible thing. Stuff like that really speaks to me, and it's the big things as well. Archeon,
Yeah, I think
Keeper of Secrets,
Great and Clean
Bloodthirster. Great.
Great
I mean,
and Clean
I'm just
yeah.
listing the greater demons, but this is probably It's when they copy nature or do natural things. That's for me. So Arachnarak, also Terrorgeist. Like they knock it out the park when they take inspiration from natural stuff.
I remember seeing that Terrorgeist in a White Dwarf. Like it was just because it was just put into a white. It was just a standalone release, wasn't it? The Terrorgeist.
Yeah.
For me, like it was those were the first big kits where you had the Ragnarok and I think the Stonehorn and maybe the Lewis engine.
Yeah.
Like I think for me, like if I had to, I mean this is going to be a bit death heavy, so I apologise.
You're picking a point in time, basically, aren't you?
The Mortarks, like the end times.
Yeah.
If I had to bookmark it, it's the end times, right? What did you have? Putrid Blight Kings, right? Morghast, the Vermin Lords, the Screamer. All of that all come out in the end times, right? Storm Fiends, they were there as well.
Storm Fiends.
What about
the Corn
the
Dudes?
Bell
and
the Bell and the Furnace? That was that end times? Was that before? That was before, yeah.
Wasn't it? That was when
So
that book came out.
That was in the similar wave to that. There was one really incredible wave of characters around whatever it was it Storm of Magic or whatever it was called, where it was the Necromancer, the Skink Priest, the Nurgle Lord on foot, which is just obviously one of the best models ever because look at Golden Demon winning awards.
Yeah.
Because you had the Glotkin as well, and you had the Rotbringer characters during the end times, and that come out with the Blight Kings, and then you had that was when the Skull Crushers, not the Skull, the what they called,
Blood Crushers,
Skull Reapers.
No, the guy, Skull Reapers, and the guys with the chains,
and the
blood things.
Yeah, the whirly
Wrathmongers. Wrathmongers, that's the ones. So Blood Wrath, Skull Throne. Oh, I don't know. And too many corn units ran through my head. So for me, like that point, there was some amazing releases there. They were all around chaos and death, really. But just like crazy, right?
None of them were too much either. You've just listed a load of models that took a level right up to the maximum level of detail that I like and went not one step further. Like they're enjoyable to assemble. Nothing is too much. It's not like like Skyfires or something like that.
Once you've got past the inner neck body bit and you actually understand how it looks, the Morghast aren't too bad. But the start is
trying to build that up.
What is this?
Feeling like Dr.
Build
Frankenstein.
the pile of skulls that makes the body in the rib cage, and you're like.
Talking about like the end times, can you remember like your just sort of like, holy shit, they've done Nagash again?
Oh god, the Nagash one was great. Yeah. He's responsible for the best shoulder pad in the world of Warhammer and Warhammer 40k.
Yeah,
just the one that you paid.
Was Archeon the plastic model released in the end times as well? The big one.
No, Archeon's Age of Sigmar, isn't he? He was one of the big releases for Sigmar.
He was quite early on though, I think. Yeah. Because it was a Duncan video, wasn't it? So that gives you a perspective of the time that it.
We never had a square base, right? That's how you know.
No, we never had a square base.
Yeah, good point. So he was early on that.
But I mean, like for me, like I just there's so many decent releases. I mean, even to be honest, like the Great and Clean one is probably it's just out of this
as
world.
As a reimagined model, it feels because they had that spell, didn't they? They had the metal one that was really little, and then they had the next metal one, which was the one which was I can remember it bigger. Was like minty coloured in the White Dwarf, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And I really liked that paint scheme, but like it didn't feel very like Great and Clean one-y, whereas I think the new one's like a perfect reimagining of the old one, which I thought was really cool.
I think that's the powerful thing, right? Is when they reimagine something that you liked a lot that was worse, and then they just made it better without being derogatory about the previous one and giving like a tip of the hat to bits that they thought were the best or something like that. And we're probably, Russ is looking around now, we're probably surrounded by the old and new versions of this.
I was just looking at my cabinet behind me, and you can probably see this I'm going to try and do it with the camera. See this yellow book here?
Yeah.
Yep.
That is Space Hulk campaigns. Now, what I was going to say is one of the things that there's two things really that are responsible for me being this much into the hobby.
You being a massive nerd.
Right, three things. Four things, five things. No, we won't go into the psychology.
Yeah.
So
7 things.
one, the 12 days of nerddom. No, the first.
The 25 days of rest feel.
Hero Quest, which I'm sure a lot of people my age probably will say the same thing. Broadsword. And
the best thing about Hero Quest is...
Yeah, and if you haven't seen that video, it's amazing.
The fact that you've got a silver in the attic and it's worth about £7 million.
Martin's looking. So the Hero Quest, which was kind of Space Crusade, but the thing that really got me into, and it's a bit of a weird one, is Space Hulk. Now, me and my brother... Now, the reason is Gene Stealers were like my favourite thing when I was a kid.
Russ likes the baddies. If you didn't know, Russ likes the baddies.
Yeah, and I like the Chaos Warriors in the Hero Quest set. Sue me. So, and the skeletons. Who knew? So, and the thing
Russ
is,
likes
I remember the model, which was the Patriarch on throne with the Magus Advisor.
Oh yeah, with the guy that was like,
he's like whispering, and he's got his hand like on the chair.
Yeah,
and that reminded me of Jabba the Hutt in Star Wars, because you've got the advisor and you've got Jabba the Hutt, right, and he's on a throne, and it was like
yeah.
And so for me, I don't know what it was, but it was like that model. I was like, that's amazing. And the other thing that went with that was Deathwing Terminators. So it was like Deathwing Terminators and Gene Stealer hybrids with the Patriarch in the expansion Deathwing specifically for Space Hulk, and I was just like, this is amazing, and that really got me into the hobby in a more of a big way. And then from a Warhammer point of view, there was a box set and it was called Skeleton Army, and I remember I'd go into game shops and it was like a box of loads of, like, they used to sell them individually. You could buy the chariots or the cavalry or the skeletons separately, or there's a box of all of it in, and it was like mega money, but not really. And it was like the Skeleton Army, and it had the pictures, I think it's a John Blanche of all the skeletons. And I always wanted it. And I had to save my pocket money and buy the bits that come in the box individually. It worked out more money, but I got it early. I got to do it in bits. And I've still got the army, actually, and it's dry brushed, goblin green bases. And I still own it. It's in a little green pot. I love it. And it hang on with the banners. I used to buy the banners on stickers. Yeah. And you'd stick the banner, leap the banner over, and fold it in half. Just as like a little bit like off, because you're talking about the skeleton stuff. Have you seen that at the moment there's loads of people on Twitter, and they're doing 5th edition Warhammer armors, and they're like they're trying to collecting 5th edition Warhammer armors, and they're doing them as and it's like a whole thing that they're doing, like get a 5th edition Warhammer book, and they're trying to get it all and play like Johnny, Rob Noyes, and stuff like that are all doing it.
That's a cool idea. Like,
and you buy it off
that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could have like that Dark Elves army that I had back in the day with like Beast Lord Rakarth. I mean, I've got a Beast Lord Rakarth here, like brand new in box still, that one day I'll eBay. But like when the Witch Elf came out, and it was like the Come At Me Witch Elf, then that Wood Elf book with Durfee with the extraordinary long arm that was like. And the different aspects on the dryads, that was like
I did go down the Wood Elf hole a little bit with that, because I love that those models, and I've got a couple of them, but that was I think like the first I remember the first White Dwarf that I bought that wasn't my brother's, because my brother's older than me, so he had the first White Dwarf it was black with a Deathwing Terminator on front of it, and it had a description about all the weapons and how they worked and how a power fist could break a house. And it had with one punch, and then it had like a build your own building where it had like the card tiles, and they had a picture, and they had a little like robber on the top, like hidden in the photo. And I remember seeing that and going, and that was really, it's like a little Easter egg in the picture. That was really cool. It's like one of the ninjas. I think it's one of the ninja models from like 1980s. Mm-hmm. And then the first one I owned was it had the black undead cover, so it was the Necromancer. It wasn't Mark Gibbons, because it was It might have been Wayne. I don't know, but it was a.
Is it?
This is a
What
cover.
was the back color of it? Was it purple?
It's
the back
black.
of it.
The back.
Is it black?
No, it's black. It's all black. So.
What am I thinking?
The purple is.
I know the one you mean. The one which is like the necromancer and his like cloaks billowing out, and he's got like.
I've got it up there. Like it's in.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's in the other room. But I've got it. Yeah. But so I've got. So it's black. And it's the undead. I mean, the back might be purple. I don't know. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I just wondered. Like that's all. I think we have this conversation every time this book comes up.
Yeah, but the white dwarf had the 4 Phoenix Lords in it. So
4.
It had
4 of them.
So Morgan Ra and those 4
4.
those metals or whatever. How many?
There's
there
more
are.
than 4.
One of
It'd be
them
James R. Azure Man.
Yeah, but they only released 4 new models, did they, at that time? Or
Fugan. I don't know. It might have been. Like I know that there's more than 4.
Yeah, but there was a release of them, and I thought it would have been, but whatever.
It would have been it'd have been Azure and Azure Man, James R, Morgan Ra, Parandras probably.
I thought it was definitely the Swooping Hawk guy was in there.
Baharoff.
Yeah, so he was definitely in there. But anyway, there was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Phoenix Lords. I don't do Eldar 40k whatever. In that and the undead. Whatever, it's fine. Whatever, they released some metal models.
I'm going to correct you every time. I'll be like, well, actually, there's more of that. I think you'll find that in that.
I remember the skull dude, the which shows Morgan Ra, the James R, which is like the Banshee one. I remember the Sleeping Hawk, Fugan, and the Striking Scorpion Carandras. I don't know. They might have been one. They might have been in there. Probably. I didn't care about them. It's why they don't stick in my brain.
How can you not care about the Phoenix Lords?
Because I don't. Like, I like the model. I like the Reaper guy. He was cool.
They're not. Yeah, because it's
got the
fucking skulls on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like,
like shock horror.
Skulls on the front.
Rush likes dead
skulls.
Stuff.
Dead stuff. Yeah, I like undead.
We're completely off tangent. Like this, if you've tuned in for Age of Sigmar content,
but you know, do you know what I think it comes down to? Jason and the Argonauts. I
was going to cite that.
Yeah.
But like that was a pretty scary thing when I watched that bit of that film. It doesn't go away.
Stop motion skeletons. I was like, what on earth is this? This is freaky as hell.
Yeah.
And like,
I was more of a Clash of the Titans guy than Jason the Argonauts.
No, I watched it with my dad. I can remember that.
I think it was Jason with the stop motion with the teeth.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And the skeletons were like probably just about legally distinct from those skeletons.
Yeah.
Just
a touch. And I think like those sort of things, when you're a kid, when you're quite impressionable, those things stick in your brain, don't they? And they kind of affect what you're into.
Do.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the baddies, you know. I say, but the question was, what made you fall in love with a hobby? So I think it's probably.
Oh wow, yeah.
So every bad guy.
But I remember that
makes us fall in love with a hobby.
That White Dwarf. Stop it. That White Dwarf, I think I read it so many times in like, you know, just and it was like, because it was mine. It was the first one that was mine. I wasn't borrowing my brother's one. It was actually mine.
You have to tape the spine back together and stuff.
No.
No. My first White Dwarf, I read that many times I had to tape it back together on the spine.
I had masking tape down the back of my Aldar Codex, the first ever Aldar Codex, with the Dire Avenger extracts on the front, because I'd read it, I'd take it everywhere with me, I'd take it to bed, it would be like I'd just carry it around with me, and I ended up having to buy another one, like, because it would just be like back in the day when you were just so in love with the universe that they created, which is really weird considering like every single like reference of me loving something is all 40k. Like yet I play Sigmar, it's really weird, but
yeah, but I mean I started on 40k really, if I think about it.
I mean I say 40k, but like
I didn't. I started on Orcs, just straight down fantasy,
straight down the fantasy hole. I will say that the Marathi is the Broken Realms Marathi book has got me really into the background, like that the Lumineth background and the Ossiarch Bone Reaper background and stuff like that. Leading up to Marathi has got me really into the background, so much so that I've gone back and I'm reading through the army books and enjoying that. So that's really cool. It's starting
to feel like a real place, right? Like when it first came out, there obviously wasn't a lot. It was like very basic but there was a lot of words, but the very, and you're like, actually, there's a lot more nuances to it. I really like I think Broken Realms Marathi, because I don't read a lot of background, but that was really actually it wasn't a hard read. I enjoyed it, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it's like, from what you guys said, it's like a wiki note, so it's not like a reductive or exposition. They're not trying to needlessly set things up because they don't exist yet. That got to be like, here's a concise version of these cool aspects, and then Les has taken that as the wiki notes, and now he's doing the rest of it to kind of pad it out a little bit more.
Yes. I just think they've done a really, really good job, and it's got me excited about it's got me excited for the next book, so I can read the background. And it's the first time in a long time that I've been excited about a release, because I've already seen that release a year ago, or something like that. So it's really exciting to. I'm pumped to get the background, because that's something that I don't know anything about, and
Cool.
I even read back through the Marathi book recently just because I was like, get those creative sort of that deep dive, falling in love with the universe, like the Age of Sigmar world, which is something that I don't think I did from the outset, which is and this is a competitive podcast, a competitive YouTube channel, and but I really love the background at the moment. I just can't I think that they're doing a really good job with
I didn't equivalent of that. I spent 2 hours scraping Marathi's wings, and I believe I've really learned to understand all of the fluff through my involvement in the background.
Well, what you can do, Byron, is me and Russ are going to record background on videos on all of the backgrounds. You could just watch listen to them, right?
Sick. Yeah, while scraping Marathi, what could be more perfect?
Yeah,
literally 2 hours making one wing fit on the Keeper of Secrets.
She's like a pretty iconic. I mean, I think like the AF stuff as well. We talk about iconic releases, like the Marathi Daughters sort of era and the Deepkin era.
Eidolon, those Eidolon models.
Good point.
They're just amazing, really. They were like another level.
I'm still waiting for a Byron Deepkin army. I feel like they're very new.
Painted a turtle recently, didn't I? Came out quite well.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it too. A bit texture-based to me. I don't like the dudes. That's the issue. I don't like their armor. I really don't want to paint armor like that unless it's painting it a really bright color and washing it 3 times. I'm not particularly into.
Paint it metal and then do a contrast over it, and make it.
Yeah, maybe that's where I do it. But I think kind of like OBR. I drew the comparison while Russ was talking about his issues painting the OBR. I think it's quite unless you just do the fish, which I would be.
Well, that's what I say. Just do the fish, right? And then the riders
the
don't have to be anything fancy.
Yeah, I love Luke's. Like Luke's army is so problematically awesome that I can't look at Deepkin without thinking of putting different things on top of it, which is only a compliment to that army. Of course. I have a question.
So
for you
Luke will
guys.
be happy because we've spoke about him, because he keeps messaging me going why don't you talk about me on the podcast?
Yeah,
that's my Luke Morton impression.
Yeah, Luke of Mr. 400 of recent Team England and Wargamer Online. So check their channel out. They're doing some exciting things.
They are. That stuff's awesome. I have a question for you guys. So if you were given a weekend and a month to do any army, what would you pick and why? So it doesn't have to be a recent one. Just Hobbit, Christmas is all about new beginnings next year, new army, buying stuff in January or preparing it over Christmas. What if you were given a weekend to get an army out there, it had been assembled? That's the precursor to that one. Or a month to do as an army as a whole. What would you pick for either of those?
Oh, I don't think I'd get an army done in the weekend. I think I'd try my hardest, but I don't think I could do it.
Poopy pants, Russ.
I just don't think I'd be able to do it.
Weekend would be. I don't have to build it. You said.
Yes, you don't have to build it, and you could have built it.
Solid. I think a weekend, you could do a Sons of Behemat, or I'd say Beast. The reason I wouldn't say Beast Claw is I already have a Beast Claw army, but if I didn't have a Beast Claw army or a Flesh Eaters army, I've got that as well. If one of those 2 armies, I think is a perfect speed paint over a weekend project.
Nail it. You can have a long weekend. It starts after work on Friday.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, if they're all built, easily get the whole army done, start to finish over the weekend.
Yeah. That one Nurgle's a good prospect, I guess. Does it change it for you, Les? Can you not? What about
Cameron Overlords?
Okay.
And I'd do them. I'd spray them metallic and I'd dry brush them, and then I'd do controlled contrast on them.
Yeah, that looks sick. Have red holes or something. What about if you had a Rusty Poo? Got a month, mate. What are you gonna do?
I think I've got a lot of projects that I say, oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. It's difficult. I think I don't know. Like right now, a month's not enough time for me to do something like my slaves army and stuff. It's not. It just take longer than that. The Deepkin, I kind of I'm in an R about that now, and I don't know if I want to spend the time on that. The Giants, I think, would be a nicer weekend project. I own a lot of armies. That's the problem. Like, it's not like if I wanted to do it, I probably would have already done it. One of the armies I don't have that I think would lend to a longer than a weekend but quick. I mean, Iron Jaws maybe would be the other one, because I've got Iron Jaws and I haven't done them. So maybe I'd say Iron Jaws then.
Yeah,
to be different.
I'm trying to think of like what.
I'm trying to think what I would like want to play with and want to paint in a month, and I'm thinking, yeah, probably Iron Jaws actually, because I think I'd enjoy playing with them more.
Yeah, you've got Noble as well, which is the other one.
Yeah, but I've already got that to a high level, so it's not going to...
Exactly.
Like, for me,
So
it's
you
like a
wouldn't touch
month
it.
more. So that's the problem I've got, is a lot of the armies that I'd love to do, I've already done it. I've already shot my load in a sense.
You have to match
I kind
standard.
of like the idea of like a Zinch one, maybe, but I just think that like all of the bits that would be cool in a Zinch army would take longer than a month.
It's cool until you get to the horrors, because you go to...
Well, I mean, yeah, the horrors would be fine.
Oh man,
No, but it's not, because you go, I want to do a Zinch army, and I'm going to do demons, so then you immediately put 2 units of Zinch, 2 units of horrors in, right? That's
90 models.
It's more than that. It's 100. It's 50 models per unit. So as soon as you put 2 units of 10 min battle line in, that's 100 models. So as cool, as quick as it is, that's 100 more models than I want to paint.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, most of us are considering armies that are less than 100.
And like, I'm like, I'm done straight away. And like, and I think to be competitive with Zinch, you kind of have to take pink horrors, right? I mean,
or have a good summoning pool, which is again.
But then what you're going to summon? Probably pink horrors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I just really don't like that. I don't like the way they play.
I quite like a Sylvaneth army again, but again, it's just armies I've already had.
That's a good.
I'd really like to do a Sylvaneth army. I think a Sylvaneth army, because you could get all
super solid.
Oh, you said someone else builds it.
Yeah,
that's a weekend army for me, Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
And I'd enjoy that.
Just contrast that,
like autumn, winter, right? Pick a solid basing scheme.
Contrast and OSL. Nice basing done.
Yeah. Do like power weapons, style weapons, like they'd look.
For sure.
And I think that would be, and they'd look cool as well. I think.
Yeah.
Sylvaneth's are really good. Sylvaneth's one of those armies again.
That's
like the aesthetic, so fucking cool.
Evil elves in woods. Done.
But like, I owned everything, didn't I? So I'm not sure I can,
Maybe it'd be easier this time doing it for a second time. If you were just like, screw it, I'm gonna do this in a way that if I ever want to add the army, I can get an entire unit done the weekend.
Have you ever cleaned up dryads?
This is the thing. Yes.
Like if you said
they're
assembly free, I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
I'm in. Yeah.
It does show the results a bit,
I've got
you son of a Dirthu, I'm in.
I've got a load of scraped and painted, but not with too thick paint dryads. If you ever want them, literally got like 80, I think.
Yeah, I like a Sylvaneth.
We could have 40 each, and that's enough for an army.
Is these days.
What are you? What about you, Byron?
Well, I'm going to try and do corn in 24 hours because the weekend's too easy, mate. It's going to be really hard, but I'm going to try and do
do it in a whole 24-hour period.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you're going to stay up for 24 hours and paint it? Is that what I meant? Like,
yeah. In for penny, in for pound. Yeah. So like,
are you going to wear tinsel the whole time?
Maybe for warmth. I think actually this is performance enhancing because it's really cold in my painting corner. I've actually got a little radiator here that my hand keeps touching. Like my painting corner is the coldest bit of the house, so I think wrapping myself in tinsel would only aid me and keep my limbs limber for ultimate control. But I'm going to try and do that. So I have to kind of say that for 24 hours. FAC would be that if I was picking it for me, FAC would definitely. I try and do that, and something clever with. I wouldn't want to. I do it like the medium guys heavy, so like minimum amount of ghouls or whatever it is, and then have 2 monsters or 3 monsters as Interrogeists or zombie dragons, and then a few of the knight-sized dudes. I tried that out. Troggoths, no one's mentioned. I think that would be an interesting army. They're fucking wicked. And you can pick any color. That's the like you want to
Yeah.
get inspiration from Brazilian tree frogs, mate. Do it. That's fine. You want to do them like all drab. That's fine. Anything would work with those.
Squig army be cool,
I'm about
right,
to say
as
a
well?
squig army.
Yeah,
In fact,
I mean, yeah.
In fact, Seraphim army, because you don't have to build them.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
They wash nicely. So yeah, I'm going to try and do corn in 24 hours. If I was picking an army project from Friday to Sunday evening for me, it would be FEC. And for a month, I don't quite know actually. I'd like to do something armored to a high level using 40k and historical techniques. So like Les has already said KO, but like let's say you sprayed all of your KO with like a mid brown and then you airbrushed orangey rusty bits on them, and then you put chip in medium over the entire thing, and then you chipped like imagine getting to chip 5 boats. That's heaven.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like a grim dark realistic KO army. So like with rust streaks and chipping on the ironclad, and the army with glossy grease coming off all of the arm, and like
it'd be
and,
wicked,
like,
dude.
This
with
is
like
my
literally
favourite
OSR red eyes.
Literally what I was going to do.
They were brown for that reason, weren't they?
Streaky grime and stuff like that. But because I was going to go back and reimagine it, but it's that's literally what I was going to do my KO as. But I think the problem I have with KO is I just don't enjoy shooting people.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. I guess you could do combat bubbles, but there's better armies.
It's too much like John Wick.
Fair.
Just headshotting everyone with drill cannons.
All those headshots. Yeah. So yeah, I'll pick. I'm doing corn 24 hours, 48 hours. I do FEC, and in a month, I think like the super weathered KO or a progressive dry brush and like metallic dry brush, and then put a filter over it. Chaos army of some description. So like I'd start from black, all dry brush. Go with the dark metal, lighter metal, very lightest metal, maybe even with white in it, like Russ was talking about recently, and then put a red over, just like you were with the panels, Les. So kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Put the like red wash the recesses and keep the rest silver, and then the recesses like glossy red or something. I think that could look cool. Or you could go super funky, do it all silver, wash the recesses red, and then wash the raised bits gold, and make like hot rod corn super fast. You could wash them with
You could do
Cassandora.
If you imagine like the new Slanesh, the mods they've released in Myrmidon, imagine doing that, like dry brushing them up for all those colours and then just sort of filtering it into the purple and the pinks and like the blues on the armour,
That'd look cooler. So yeah,
I'm really excited because I watched the Peachy Dread Pageant video of how to, and what he does with his is that he paints them all metal and then he just washes them like with watered down contrast and tints them metallics, blue and purple, and it's just really cool.
Interesting. I've got next to me that I've never tried out, but I've seen on the YouTubes a lot. That is not focusing to
Dale Rowney.
It's a Liquitex. Liquitex acrylic ink, and I've never tried these, so it's an artist's ink. And I've seen Marco NJM. He's used them to great effect over metallic.
Vince has used them as well, like a lot.
Yeah.
I've got the Dale Rowney equivalents, and I've used the yellow and the white, and they're really good.
Cool.
Top.
Yeah. So
really
I'm definitely gonna give them a go. So
that's distracted by dickhead cat. Sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, that's what I do for mine. I think they'd look amazing. That KO army in particular on the table would look like special at an Age of Sigmar tournament.
I've got a real for me, like that's why I kind of want to do like a grim darky army that is like not 40k because I don't play 40k, but that sort of style, and that's
best thing about 40k for me is the painting. Like if I'm going to take anything from 40k, it's not the models, although they're sick, but it's the ideas you get to me of the weathered, beaten up, battle worn, like.
Because I really like that kind of martial, and it goes back to Dark Angels, right? That kind of knightly order, that kind of stuff like that. And it's like to try and like encapsulate that, and there hasn't really been a good guy army that's like that, and that's why Stormcast, they keep dragging me towards the light, and then I go, no, I like death, and I keep doing that. That's why I got out and I just sold all my Stormcasts. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to get time. But
you could do some really, really beaten, like a campaign, and like walking back from a campaign, trudging back Stormcast.
It's a bit like a crusading army, You see like the old historical Black Templar-esque, but like,
exactly.
And I've seen other people do it, so I'm not, I've seen
Yeah.
like I think
Yeah.
there's a guy. Is it Voltron on Twitter, and he's got like Crusading Stormcast, and they've all got like knight helmets and tabards and the crosses. And I really like the idea of that, and I think almost like you could almost like take some of the like Crusading markings and have like it's a bit Sisters of Battle and Gothic-y, but it's like I want to do that, but I want to do it in the game that I play, and they're not in the game I play, and it's like it's almost like. Because I remember, like, when I was looking at getting into Saga and I was looking at the Crusading expansion, you could do the Crusading army, and that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, something. But I think at the end of the day, like, there's always loads of projects you want to do, and there's just not enough time.
Not enough hours in the day,
enough
right?
hours, not enough.
Well, that's why I gave you guys a period of you've got a month from magically appeared from nowhere.
Yeah, this is a month of time. Is that like full time? Or is that like a month in between?
You get a month off and you don't have to do anything, and I've sponsored it, and you pick it up.
We can do this if you like, Byron.
You can do it.
If you want to
pay us for a
me
month, and then we can
give
us the models assembled and pay us. Awkward. No.
Ooh.
It'd be really cheap right now because I'm not earning any money.
I was going to make the joke that I was going to employ you at your unemployed wage.
My struggling artist wage. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's never going to get old, the struggling artist joke, is it?
But I mean, yeah.
Ask me in person if you ever see me.
Put down in the comments below what armies you would do in a weekend or a month.
Yes.
And if you're planning to, and if you are, great.
Or tweet as if you're listening to this on a podcast.
Yeah,
if you're listening to it on a podcast.
If you come up with a good put it in, because we might actually do it. Like at some point, I'm gonna luckily have a justification for kind of murking myself for the enjoyment of others. So if someone gives me a good enough suggestion, I might approach that on AO as well as a video, like I'm doing with the corn. So maybe after this one, I won't try and do it in 24 hours straight. We'll see how this goes. But I think I'm going to do well. The entire video is going to be about planning. So that's the idea. So I'm going to do it's like Darren Watson approaching a game of Warhammer. I know it's going to be bad.
Get drunk.
I'm going to do all the prep I can here to make the actual thing go as well as possible. So that's,
I think like the problem I have is I love the planning and like the conceptualizing, but the doing,
it's the executing.
It's like, I get to the point I'm like,
execution.
Well, I'm like, I can do it, and I might do a test model or something. And I go, I know.
Why is it not done yet?
And then I just go, well, I'm on to the next thing now. It's like typical like creative process, isn't it? Rather than
managing your own projects, but not to completion.
Yeah, someone else has got to do the work, right? That's what project manager.
Yeah. I think painting an army is like riding a bike up a series of hills. So you're really excited and you plan it all, and then you're at the top and you go, right, let's start. And you go down the hill, and then you go
first unit,
really, really excited, and then you go halfway up the hill and you're like, oh, this is gonna really be annoying. And then you hit like a milestone, you're like, oh, cool, I get to do this really cool unit. And then you go down a hill again, and you just and then the last at the 90% mark, you come down the hill and you're like, right. And then that last 10% is hard.
Like 3/4 of the way down the hill, you fall off your bike, and you go, "That'll do."
Yeah, and you're like, it's that final 2% when you're like, I'm nearly finished. I should stop rushing this really because I'm going to spoil the entire project. But you're like,
I start liking it towards it. That's the unhelpful thing for me. I start liking it towards the last 10%, and then I take that positive feedback and I apply it to the next thing, and then you hit it again. Or I get that on a unit by unit basis, I guess.
Yeah. So I think we'll stop now. This is a bit of a random, rambly show, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And thanks for
some nuggets in there.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, guys!
Merry Christmas.
If you're to this, it's at Christmas Day, and hopefully you enjoyed the Advent thing. Let us know if you think it was worthwhile as doing it, because it nearly broke me editing it all.
I had fun.
But yeah, I think let us know what you thought, and Merry Christmas and thanks for the support. You probably won't see another FaceHammer video until the new year, or FaceHammer release until the new year, because we need a break, like a breather. But the support and everything.
Cheers, guys. Much appreciated. Always love the engagement. Love people joining the Discord. Fucking great to see you getting in there, and there's some awesome stuff being discussed. So I really like that.
Yeah, appreciate
Get in the comments below. Hit the bell notification, all of that. Like, enjoy your Christmas if you're listening to this or watching it on Christmas Day. And
hope you get some sick toys.
Yeah, some sick models, mate.
And just before we go on that note, New Year's resolution. Do we want to do that? Just on the spot, completely put you on the spot.
I can make mine super easy. I have to paint a corn army. That's a cop out. I will. I'm going to do more work on my very, very lengthy, like, romantic project, which is the weird, currently Beastman army, but I don't know what it's going to end up as. I think it might end up as one of each of the 4 greater demons reimagined or heavily converted, and then as few guys as I can get away with the rest of it. So I'd like to finish that.
What about you, Russ? What do you think? That's Byron's. What about you?
I think being more John Wick. No, I mean,
do you want to go to an event?
If I talk about a hobby, well, that would be nice. I think from a hobby point of view, I would like to actually paint an army to old sort of like actual properly painted level. Yeah. What that is, I don't know. Whether that's Slanesh Mortals or Slaves to Darkness or whatever. I'd just like to actually sit down and paint an army and finish it and be like, that's not a rush to table, although it looks good. This is painted, it's a labour of love-esque, but not quite to that level, because I don't think that's doable. But, like a sort of a top-end table that would compete for
You'd like a painting knob compete for a prize.
Well, I'd like to have a painting trophy, because I get painting knobs with a lot of my quick-to-table armies, but never win anything, obviously. So it'd be nice to win if there are events. So next year might not happen, but regardless of trophies or not, I'd just like to paint an army that is like to show that I can paint to a nice level, and I'm happy with it, and I enjoy the process. And what that is, whether it's a Deepkin army, a Behemoth army, something random like the Slaves to Darkness, Mortal Slanesh army, whatever, a Marathi and Snakes army, just something. I need to do a project next year that's not dry brushed and thrown on the table, but is done with a bit more care and attention, and is something I'm proud of as from a paint job point of view.
You can get some good content on that as well. Follow your journey from
and what that is, no idea. But I'd like to actually start a project and finish it to a level that I haven't compromised the standard. Is probably the way I'd phrase it.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. So, what about you, Leslie Pooh?
I'd like to finish my Lumineth. I've spent a lot of money on buying the project, and it's not. I'm painted 10 guys and 2 heroes. So I'm giving myself a bit of a breather over the Christmas period, and I'm painting the Dire Chasm guys, because me and Russ were talking about it today. It's been really nice because, essentially, I get to figure out how I'm going to paint a Sentinel. I get to figure out how I'm going to paint a Stone Guard. And I get to figure out how I'm going to do the wizard stuff.
Awesome! You have a finished display piece at the end of it.
Yeah, so I'm going to figure out how I'm doing all those. And once I've done those, I'd like to get the Lumina finished. I've spent so much money on them that it would be I'd want to get them done. I want to have the options because it's I've decided I'm going to change the basing. I'm not going to do the marble basing because of a couple of different reasons that are boring as hell. I won't get into. But yeah, I'd like to finish the Lumineth. I'd like to take them, play a few more. If we can play games and take them to a tournament, that would be my thing. It'd be like Russ. It'd be nice to get them to, if a Warhammer World tournament opens up in April, get my Lumineth done, and get them into be able to compete for painting with an army again, because I've not won a painting trophy in a long time. I'm not saying that I'm expecting to win it or anything like that. It'd just be nice to be.
We've got similar aims for an army, I guess.
I've done the super competitive thing before. It'd be nice to be able to do the competitive thing and that, and maybe it's something that we can all kind of do together when Russ decides to do it and stuff like the good old days when we used to. Hey, this podcast started when we'd be up chatting shit, painting toy soldiers ready for tournaments.
Do that. I've got Henry Steele wants to do an army this year.
Henry involved as well.
So we'll get him on some chats. He's asked me about
We'll do a Discord. We'll do everyone that wants to be involved in this. New year, new army, new you. We'll do a Discord channel. We'll get it involved, and it'll be me, Russ, Byron, and Henry, because Henry's a fucking legend, and everyone can get involved with
voice in the industry as well.
I'd love him to read. When I get the next army book, I want to just get him to voice note it to me and be like, 3s to hit, 3s to wound.
I can get that
arranged.
Get that range for you.
But you wouldn't get past. You wouldn't get to the special rule.
I'd be like 3s to hit.
You'd be done by the time you got to the bravery.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Again, yeah, we could get him involved.
This is an open invitation, Henry, as well. Like, you literally live down the road. When we can play Warhammer again, we'll play Warhammer, and then you can get an army on the table, and we can and do that. So whenever you
do
want to play,
something sick in about 20 minutes as well if he gets
the
the
prick.
table.
Yeah, it's just. But yeah, we do a Discord for the new year,
Great,
which
work
will
out a
be,
good way to do stuff.
yeah. Check out his YouTube channel as well, which is called
Yeah, it's great stuff. Yeah, it's wicked. Him and Andy. Similar aims for all of us. I want to arrogantly say that if I get this army finished, like the aim with this was to do something at such a level where if I turned up at an event, it should win Best Painted. I know that's going to sound like a very ballsy statement, but if I'm going to put my heart and soul into every model as much as this one, I want to turn up and fuck the painting a new face.
What would be really, really good is that we can go to events again, and then I can come second to you every time, and not be annoyed about it at all. So...
I think what we're gonna do is me and Les have to up our game so Byron goes disappointed all year.
Sweet.
Just my resolution is to ruin your resolution. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I've done 2020. It's onwards and upwards from here.
It's like 2020 is not over yet, bro. Just saying.
This has got more endings than fucking this podcast got more endings than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. This is the bit now we're going to go have a battle in the Shire, which we won't cut out. But it's like, do you remember that year when all the celebrities died and everyone was like, "This is the worst year ever," and 2020 was like, "Hold my beer."
Hold my beer.
So, hope everyone's safe. Thank you very much for getting through this long, rambly show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and thanks for all the support. And we hope to catch you all on events soon. We are planning to run FaceHammer GT next year, world permitting. So hopefully we'll see you there. And thanks very much for your support. And have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Bye.